Hey everyone, welcome to Logan's Mosh Pit. Glad to have you here. Do me a favor and please subscribe if you haven't already. Today we're going to do another episode of the Setlist Snubs series. In this series, I'm going to discuss some songs from different bands that don't get played live very much. However, I'm going to give you some reasons why I feel like those underrated songs actually deserve to get played live more often than they do. If there's someone specific you guys want me to talk about in a future episode of this series, please leave a comment down below. I'll check your feedback. Today we're going to go over a few Judas Priest hidden gems. Well, Judas Priest completely corresponds to heavy metal. With nearly half a century behind them, this band has placed an impenetrable exclamation point on all things undomesticated. Heavier than a season of My 600 Pound Life. Since 18 imposing albums belong to Judas Priest, it barely requires any deliberation before reaching the conclusion that a great deal of their material gets excluded away from the studio. Some of them probably even escape the most devoted metalheads' memory. Before we visit them, I want to rehash reasons why all bands, not just Judas Priest, omit songs live and diligently cater to every whim of others. As always, I only do this to educate new viewers who might be watching for the first time. But if you've been present for a Setlist Snubs episode before, why don't you skip ahead a few minutes, because you already know what to expect. The first reason is casual fans don't want to waste their time scouring through a band's discography. Instead, they coast through on the bare minimum. Single might as well be their middle name. Anything not viewed as a staple song, such as Living After Midnight, You Got Another Thing Coming, and Pain, Killer, gets ignored. Another reason would be Gobs of Pressure, produced by a combination of fans and fellow band members, routinely accompanies bands on tour, coaxing them to play their most sought-after songs live in order to give the bulk of fans there a warm, fuzzy type of feeling. If fans exit the venue ecstatic about the song selection, then the odds of them spending money on tickets later down the line multiplies. A third reason involves tunes derived from so-called stinker albums whose general consensus left a lot to be desired. For example, Point of Entry, Demolition, and Nostradamus, to name a few. Songs introduced on them are quite unlikely to crack the set list due to the fact that a significant chunk of the crowd would either feel confused or irritated. The next reason, believe it or not, sometimes after a number of years a group becomes so jaded toward a particular track they discard it altogether, just throw it away. The fifth reason encompasses the root of the problem. Casual fans occupy a far more pronounced population versus hardcore fans. Therefore, casual fans typically receive the final say in what songs earn immunity, so to speak. Final reason why some songs are glued to a band's schedule and the rest seemingly irk them to no end is certain tunes demand absurd amounts of technical modifications that only a studio can accommodate. Unfortunately, stages are a different story altogether. Attempting the same thing live would result in a night and day sound difference. Now that we're done discussing potential reasons, let's unpack a few mind-boggling stats courtesy of Setlist.fm. I'll put a link to Setlist.fm in the description. To locate Setlist.fm, just make your way over to Google, type in a band with tour statistics right after that, and tap on the first result that appears on your screen. Setlist.fm represents a fountain of knowledge related to songs, albums, and tours for practically every band known to man. According to Setlist.fm, Judas Priest has toured since 1969. They're basically cockroaches in music form. You just can't get rid of them. Unsurprisingly, Breaking the Law has received the most attention, flaunting 1,198 confirmed acknowledgments. To wrap your head around that number, let's say you listen to Breaking the Law exactly 1,198 times in a row, non-stop, without any breaks. something I doubt even the most diehard Judas Priest fan could handle. 184,492 seconds would be eaten away, or 2.1 days. Bidding farewell to the stats, I would like to enlighten you on my list of unloved Judas Priest songs, some of the Judas least likely to show up live. Seeing as how choosing between 70s and 80s Judas Priest feels like deciding between salsa and guacamole, I graciously split it down the middle to avoid upsetting the balance of the universe. 3 underappreciated 70s tunes, and not to be outdone, 3 golden 80s tunes. That includes an extra special bonus pick. I'll put a link to all 6 songs in the description. Ready, set, go! Why don't we begin with Riding on the Wind from Screaming for Vengeance. It has totaled 252 live performances, about 21 versus the number 1 slot Breaking the Law. Right out of the gate, Riding on the Wind delivers beautifully brisk drumming and sweltering guitar chords. From there, Rob Halford interjects, lobbing some sturdy screams that few would even dream of emulating. The lyrics were quite simple and straightforward, but Halford's sensational sonic gifts remedy that. Plus, listeners can look forward to an absolutely bodacious guitar solo. I definitely wouldn't think twice about blasting Riding on the Wind when I'm in a Judas Priest kind of mood. Next, the rage explodes over British Steel. I'd be furious too if I was only allowed to visit 72 concerts. I love the slow build-up that occurs and suddenly bursts into maniacal tendencies. I think it was a stroke of genius the way Halford lowered his register to a gruff growl throughout the verses because it accentuated the title, The Rage. Once again, the guitars were simply sublime. All the pieces were there. Overall, it struck me as an incredibly forthright song. Next time your siblings borrow something that belongs to you without asking, The Rage will have your back. Thirdly, I picked a dandy called Heavy Metal, derived from Ram It Down. Unfortunately, heavy metal has only met crowds on 54 occasions. It just amazes me across the board how quickly Judas Priest manages to pull you into one of their blistering tracks. Within a few seconds, you're already fully engaged and eager to hear the rest. They're one of the best at it. Heavy metal was no exception. The first 45 seconds were positively crushing in terms of sound, and things only improved from there. It keeps the tradition alive by proudly proclaiming the title in the chorus. This chorus offers a wonderful opportunity to get the crowd involved, so I wish Priest would take advantage of it. Closing in on 6 minutes, you may expect it to drag along, but let me assure you, heavy metal remains fresh all the way through. Between the adrenaline-laced lyrics and catchy demeanor, Judas Priest gives 110% here. After heavy metal takes a bow, we resume thanks to Let Us Pray, that's P-R-E-Y, / Call for the Priest, debuting on Sin After Sin, headlining a scant 11 shows. It was very cool how the opening presented a slightly tweaked Here Comes the Bride emitted on guitar, not piano. Then it shifts to familiar territory, paving the way for the Priest we all know and love, enhancing the impact by distributing echoey vocals. Despite being the most time-consuming choice on my list, similar to heavy metal, turns those 6 minutes into a delightful experience. By this point, Judas Priest had all but declared they were the almighty band ruling over their respective genre. Evening Star twinkles brightly in 5th place, Born on Killing Machine / Hellbent for Leather, depending on where you live. Believe it or not, Evening Star has yet to attend a live performance. Maybe it was deemed too drastic of a departure from the old faithful, savage version of Judas Priest. However, I think Evening Star will gradually grow on you. It just takes some time to get used to before you really appreciate it. Judas Priest was on their best behavior, smoothly gliding through a harmless ballad. Details an age-wiser man learning from his regrets determined to make things right. Inevitably, they couldn't resist letting some piercing screams slip out, just to remind you who they really were. Evening Star clearly doesn't connect as strongly to its creator compared to blaring Judas Priest counterparts, but I applaud them for trying something new. Traveling along the same route gets boring after a while, and Judas Priest certainly spiced things up here. Finally, my bonus pick. Also, my personal favorite. Hero's End tied to Stained Class. Like the previous tune, Hero's End has been denied a single opportunity to enthrall the crowd. A big mistake, in my opinion. I was particularly pleased when Halford's distinct wail tremored with emotion before bidding a line goodbye. For example, I watched her hitting notes as she strutted, "Stage!" Her body shook. Oh, she did her "Stop!" I don't have the pipes. That execution ultimately won major bonus points. Hero's End exuded classy vibes. I couldn't resist bobbing my head to the beat in a more noticeable manner versus the competition. Plus, this fantastic song contained a wonderful ratio of low roars countered by high squeals. Not to mention the equally visceral instrumentals. If you ask me, you'd be hard-pressed to find a superior selling point to Skeptics than Hero's End. Well, that's all I have for you guys. That does it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. I really appreciate the support. I'll see you next time. Until then, rock on.